Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining Amtrak Vacations as we feature New Orleans in the Deep South and some of the exciting rail vacations available in this wonderful city, otherwise known as the Big Easy. So let me just start out and give everyone a little overview on New Orleans. Of course, it is located in the beautiful state of Louisiana. It is the largest city in all of the state. Was actually named after the Duke of Orleans, and it's famous for its unique architecture of both French and Spanish elements. And as I go through my presentation here today, it'll give you a little example of some of the great sights you'll see, some of the great cuisine available, as well as lots and lots of activities to see and do. So with that in mind, just let me share with you some of the fun little facts on New Orleans. It actually has the highest number of historic districts, higher than any other city in the United States. It's also home to the New Orleans Saints NFL football team, which is located in the New Orleans Superdome, which happens to be the largest enclosed arena in the world. And of course, as you can see here in the picture, it is known for their entertainment, in particular their nightlife, their jazz music, so much culture here in the city of New Orleans. So definitely, if you're thinking of a fun, exciting city that you can travel to really anytime during the year, New Orleans would be that city to consider. Also, keep in mind, whether it's New Orleans or any city in the United States that Amtrak Vacations travels to, you have the choice in the style accommodations you would like to stay at. So in New Orleans, we use hotels such as the Holiday Inn, the Wyndham Hotel, Marriott, just to name a few. So again, you get to choose what style hotel you would like to stay at. As I mentioned earlier, cuisine in particular, of course, New Orleans known for their Creole cooking, their Cajun style food. In fact, many of today's famous chefs got their start or at some point traveled and or worked in the city of New Orleans with all the delicious flavors of their cuisine, from their sausages and macaroni to their fish and jambalaya, all different types of wonderful cuisine, as well as one of my personal favorites, beignets, basically donuts that are fried with cinnamon or sugar or powder. Absolutely delicious. So keep cuisine in mind. Also keep in mind all the exciting festivals that take place. Of course, New Orleans is home to Mardi Gras, which actually originated back in 1837. But Mardi Gras is actually going to be operating in 2016. Typically, it operates the end of January into the first week or two of February. New Orleans also has what's known as their French Quarter Festival, which is typically the beginning of April, their Jazz and Heritage Festival towards the end of April, even into the beginning of May, as well as their Voodoo Festival. So lots of great festivals, lots of great activities to see and do in this wonderful city. So keep that in mind when you are looking to travel to New Orleans. And speaking of traveling to New Orleans, the nice part is you have the option to also to decide how long or short you would like to travel. So we have some great packages that are as short as 3 and 2 days long, or 2 nights rather. Here's our 3-day getaway. Again, 2 nights hotel, you get to choose. We also offer what's called New Orleans visit tickets. So that's going to get you into some of the great attractions in and around the city of New Orleans. So the example I use is when I was in Chicago recently visiting the Willis Tower, which was formerly the Sears Tower. There were 2 lines. One line was out the door. It was super, super long. The other line was only had about 3 or 4 people in it. And that was the line with everyone who had visit tickets. So having that included, everyone, whether it's on our getaways or any of our longer packages, is definitely a big highlight. So keep that in mind. We also offer a choice of some different tours in the area. Now, if you want to go for a day longer, we do have an ultimate getaway available as well. 4 days, 3 nights. Okay, so we have an extra day, and we also have a dinner included. Now, one of the things with New Orleans, which is so special and unique, is not only their French influence, but also their Spanish influence. And it's not only in the cuisine, everyone, but also in the architecture. Many wrought iron fences, you know, different areas throughout the city itself. Now, besides New Orleans, we do have some packages that start in other great cities in the United States. So one of our most popular itineraries, which we highly, highly recommend for anyone looking to go to New Orleans, is our jazz, blues, rock and roll, because not only are you going to get that wonderful jazz music that New Orleans has to offer, but you're also going to get some great blues and rock and roll in some of the other great cities such as Chicago down to Memphis. You'll notice, too, in the top left-hand corner, we do have an overnight train from Chicago to Memphis. Now, all of our pricing, and again, you can contact our office. That number is listed at the bottom of each picture that I highlight, as well as our website, where you can get more detailed information on dates and pricing. But all of our pricing on all of our independent trips, which are all the trips I'm highlighting here today, they're based in coach seating with the option to upgrade to a sleeper, which would be either a roomette or a bedroom. So again, any of our agents can give you more details about those exciting options. What's interesting with New Orleans, too, everyone, or rather the state of Louisiana, it's actually one of only 2 states in the United States that actually does not have what they call counties, right? So every state has counties. In New Orleans, they're known as parishes. Of course, the people in New Orleans, a lot of history with many of them from eastern Canada, the Acadian area of eastern Canada, which in essence is how the name Cajun evolved. So lots of Cajun ancestry, which are descendants from the eastern part of Canada. Now, another great city that we also feature that also includes New Orleans is San Antonio. And this is our river walk to the French Quarter. And I will say this is a great, great value for all of you that want to see not only New Orleans, but also another great city in San Antonio. 7 days, 6 nights. As you can see, we visit the Alamo. We have a narrated view of New Orleans on a tour of the historic city. Even a 4-course jazz dinner at the world-famous Court of Two Sisters. How great is that? So keep this particular trip in mind. And of course, more interesting facts on New Orleans. New Orleans also actually has one of only 2 mobile national monuments in the United States, and that is St. Charles Streetcar Line. So it's basically a trolley car in New Orleans on St. Charles Avenue. St. Charles Streetcar Line, one of only 2. The estimated population in New Orleans is about 384,000, with about 5 million people total living in Louisiana. Now, again, I can't say enough about their cuisine. As you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, one of my favorite dishes, jambalaya. They also have crawfish. Again, all different types of delicious cuisine. Some of you may be familiar with the chef Emeril Lagasse. He had his start in New Orleans. Again, many of the famous chefs today at some point had spent time in New Orleans. Now, another great city that we also include, as well as New Orleans, is Memphis. And this is our Blues to the Bayou tour. 6 days, 5 nights. We have a platinum tour of Graceland included. We experience all the sights and excitements in New Orleans as well. So definitely keep this particular trip in mind also. You know, they actually consider New Orleans to be the birthplace of poker as well. It's a little interesting fact about that. Again, here's some more sights of some of the beautiful, colorful buildings in and around the city. Speaking of cities, here is Dallas. Now, our Dallas package is known as our Cowboys and Cajuns. So not only do we include Dallas, we also include San Antonio and, of course, again, New Orleans. So as I am going through my presentation, again, you always have that connection with New Orleans, either just by itself, for those of you who want to spend just time in New Orleans, whether it's 3, 4, 5, 7 days long, or you would like to see some of the other great cities in and around it, it is available. They actually hosted the first opera, believe it or not. It was actually performed in the late 1700s in Louisiana. In fact, interestingly enough, in New Orleans, too, it is also the birthplace of some of our famous musicians, such as Louis Armstrong, Harry Connick Jr., and even our famous comedian, Ellen DeGeneres. So keep that in mind. Now, for those of you that would like to not only see New Orleans, but also Washington, D.C., we have a great, great itinerary that not only includes these cities, but also many of the other great cities throughout the United States. This really is more for those of you who want that true rail experience, as well as all the sights and sounds that New Orleans has to offer. Here's our Great American Southern Trail, 14 days, starting in Los Angeles, traveling to San Antonio, then New Orleans, where we spent a few nights, up to Atlanta, Washington, D.C., before ending in New York City. Now, if you look also at the map on the left-hand side, anytime you see a red triangle, that lets you know there's an overnight on the train, okay? So we have an overnight from Los Angeles to San Antonio, and then we also have another one from Atlanta up to Washington, D.C. And when we are in each of the cities, again, we spend anywhere from 1, 2, or 3 nights. But also, again, keep that in mind. You get to customize any of these trips to make them as long or as short as you would like, to include as much or as little as you would like. Again, lots of great options in New Orleans. The nice part, too, about this wonderful city, as I mentioned earlier, again, it is a year-round city. You can travel anytime throughout the year. We have daily departures here at Amtrak Vacations, so again, keep that in mind. Also, keep in mind another great itinerary, and that is our Grand Rail experience. This is the second itinerary, again, for those of you who not only want the absolute wonderful experience in New Orleans, but would love the other wonderful experience of traveling by rail all throughout the United States. And as you can see here, it is a circle, really, USA loop tour from New Orleans to Los Angeles, Seattle, as I mentioned in the slide previously, to Chicago, over to Washington, D.C. In fact, this particular trip is round trip in and out of Chicago, with, of course, the highlight being New Orleans. And I can't say enough about the nightlife, everyone, the jazz music, the blues, the cuisine, the people, the wonderful opportunity. So I hope you enjoyed today's presentation, everybody. Again, contact Amtrak Vacations or certainly your local travel agent to plan your next rail vacation. Thanks so much.